Recently talked about Netflix for B2B. I mean, if you
Yeah,
want to share more about this, let's just talk about it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, I guess the kind of thinking. So initially, I have a friend, a colleague, Todd Clouser. He also makes content and stuff. So about 2, 3 years ago, Todd and I have like this. We co-founded a consultancy called Easy Mode. Through that consultancy, like we co-host a podcast called Cheat Codes. So Todd and I would create a lot of content together. So one day we were creating the website for Easy Mode. We were just designing it. And we had this conversation like, yo, we have so much content that we've created for LinkedIn. And just the way that LinkedIn works is like you post content and then it kind of just, disappears into the void. Most you can do is just like pin content and then hope people will go through it or whatever. So, but other than that, it kind of just disappears. So then I was talking to Todd and we were like, we've created so much content on LinkedIn that's kind of just like disappeared. So why don't we just like put it all on this website that we're creating for ourselves? Because we didn't have our own website at that point. So we were like, why don't we just take all of our content and then put it on this website so then people can just rewatch it all? So then we were like, okay, if we're going to do that to make it easier, why don't we just like turn it into like a streaming platform in the sense that like, so what we thought is like, why don't we just take content with like common themes and then like just turn it into a series. So for example, Todd, like you have a bunch of videos where you're just sitting in the backyard. Like we can just take all those videos, turn them into episodes and name it like Backyard Tales or whatever. And then we can take all of my videos where I'm just gaming, talking about marketing, turn them into episodes and call that series Level Up. And so that's how we initially got started. It wasn't just like, let's make a bunch of new series. It was like, let's just take all of this content that we already have and then make more use of it. Turn it into series by grouping them together based on like whatever common themes they have, and then like put them on our website under a page called like content or whatever. And so we jumped into Photoshop or Figma and we essentially just designed like a pretty much a copy of like Netflix's interface at that time. And but we like replaced it with like our own series and thumbnails and stuff. And that never went anywhere. So we just came up with this like whole idea. It never went anywhere because we both worked like full-time jobs and it was very hard to just like focus enough time to like design and develop our own website for side stuff. In January of last year, he joined Lavender, and then in March of last year, I joined HockeyStack. So that framework that we created, we had made this framework called the Easy Mode framework. It was like an 8-part framework, and we essentially just implemented that framework at the companies that we joined. Even when we would make like funny content, it would associate like that's one of the things that I would do whenever we had a new feature release. For example, I created a skit series specifically for product releases, product updates, and new features. It was called like B2B therapy. And it was just like a TikTok style skit where I was pretending to be a marketer talking to his therapist. And I would just I always had like two non-related problems that I would complain about. Like in one of the first episodes, I complained about like being bullied by sales. And then the therapist was like, it's okay, the sales team can't hurt you anymore, right? And like stuff like that. And then I would finally like complain about something that was a result of not having that feature. So like we released a feature where you could see podcast mentions in your customer journey if you integrated Gong. And if someone mentioned your podcast, like HockeyStack would pull that, throw it in your customer journey as a touch point, right? So like we released like a little hype video, as you should, but to sort of get it to stick and get it out there, I made a new episode of B2B Therapy where I was just complaining about things. And then I eventually complained about like leadership team wanting to shut down my podcast because I couldn't show ROI for it after 2 weeks. And the therapist was like, well, don't worry, you have HockeyStack now. And, you know, now you can see podcast mentions in your customer journey. And then like it would end. And at the end of the video, I just took a picture of like the clouds and I would do this voiceover where I'm like, HockeyStack, helping marketers since 1873. Now with podcast mentions in the customer journey. And that was like the last thing that you would hear in the video. So like it was hopefully a funny skit. You laughed, blah, blah, blah. These videos, like these skits would do well on LinkedIn, but you'd leave knowing with the fact that, okay, HockeyStack now has a new feature that does so-and-so. And so that was the brand building type of content that I made. There was like an 80-20% split.